And welcome to today's edition of Dr. Carole's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist, Dr. Carole Lieberman, and that's my dog Lulu in the background, who you may hear from time to time. Um, Today's show is really important. I mean, I tend to say that about all of my shows because I pick guests that have something really important to say. Um, and this is something that really this is kind of like the same thing with terrorism, how Americans are not paying attention to what danger we're in from radical Islamist terrorists. This is similar. Um, it's people are not thinking about it when we should be. So the name of the show today is called While We Are Sleeping, Chinese Communists Are Taking Over America. Now, you may not believe this because certainly you will not have heard it in the mainstream media, but when you hear today's guest, you will you will believe it because he knows. Today's guest is Nan Su. He is currently a senior reporter for the Epoch Times, a New York-based newspaper published in 36 countries and 22 languages. Mr. Su's focus has been subjects related to China, of course. Born and raised in China, Mr. Nan Su came to the United States in 1989. Since 2003, he has served as a news commentator for the SOH International Chinese Radio Network and NTD International TV Network, which you may be familiar with, focusing on news related to China. Over the past 2 decades, Mr. Su has delivered numerous talks and interviews on the strategies um, of China, of the Communist Party of China. And he is, today we're going to be covering such topics as, first of all, something that is just really happening beneath our eyes. And surprisingly, I just found out actually that someone I know is going to be selling their land to China. I was kind of surprised. I thought it was someone who's somewhat sophisticated, or at least aware of the news, aware of world events, and yet even he, because he needed the money, he needed to sell it to the highest bidder. I mean, that's usually the excuse that people give. Even he sold it to China. And we're going to be talking about other topics related to China too, such as the bioterrorism, people bringing in things that are objects of bioterrorism, that are sources of bioterrorism. So, without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Su, Mr. Nan Su. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Carole, for having me.
And Mr. Su was on the show before. It was a while ago. It was like over a year ago, and I remember that he had very interesting things to say, which is why we're having him back. So, what what do you think about all of this? You know, the while we are sleeping, Chinese communists are taking over America.
Well, first of all, it was you started with the Islamic extreme terrorist group.
Right.
Let me just add it to it that all these terrorist group, regardless as Hezbollah or ISIS or maybe Houthis or Hamas, all of them actually being trained by the Chinese military. All of these terrorist groups have been sending their military officials to China to receive military training. That's been like in more than decades. So, if you're talking
Really?
about who is the biggest terrorist group, it's not none of these groups in Middle East. The biggest terrorist group in the world is the Chinese government.
That is amazing. I mean, I call myself the terrorist therapist because since 9/11, I've been helping people cope with terrorism all over the world and written 2 books on terrorism and so on and so forth. And I never knew that. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, not glad that they're doing that, but glad to know that. Now, how did that come about? Like, how did
Well,
they know that China would be the place to learn the most effective tools of terror.
Well, so all these all these kind of tactic that's been developed by the Chinese military during World War II because they don't have enough military, so they're basically doing all this kind of digging the tunnels under the ground. That's Hamas, and in the mountains, small groups, attacking the military or all these kind of things being developed very early on in the 30s and 40s during World War II, while Japanese invaded China. And now during that time, the China's government, that's the government today in Taiwan, that's KMT's government. Uh, they have big military. They are fighting against the Japanese on the forefront, and then big battles. While the CCP, they have a small group army. Not really like a formal military. They have some military, but they don't want to fight directly against the Japanese. So they basically developed all these militia kind of attack as the tactic. That's like almost like 100 years ago. So later, they, the CCP has been a long-time supporter of the Palestinian force ever since the very beginning, and then gradually, that kind of a relation lasting ever since the very beginning of Palestine, moving towards to their battles against the Israelis. So basically, they have been sending their military officials to China to receive military training for as long as I can remember, probably 70, 80 years. And then later, all these groups gradually you see all these different groups, Islamic terrorist group, they start, break away from, all these Middle East, other like pro-Palestinian or all these kind of movements, and they had this long time relation. They basically continue this long time relation between China and Palestinians. So that's how this thing came about.
That's very interesting. So with Iran, and so China, I mean, I know that right now, as of course you know, there is this somewhat of a standoff between Iran and America. Um, with American ships and all that being uh facing Iran. Um, so they would be using, so Iran would be, well, and I know that, I mean, is it true? I shouldn't say I know, but is China, they have said, Iran has said that they're going to call on China and Russia to back them up if this war starts.
Yes, it's true. China has been a long-time supporters all of these terrorist group. Right? For example, right before the U.S. troops, about 1 month actually, U.S. troops withdraw from Afghanistan. And then all the Afghanistan terrorist groups send their leaders, their diplomats to Beijing, and then had a meeting with how they are going to govern. They talk about how they're going to govern Afghanistan. So, and right before the Hamas attack on October 7th, pretty much all different groups of terrorists and in Middle East send their representative to China. So it's been all these years has been the same thing, and now China has been openly supporting Iran. Now in 2021, China and Iran signed a deal, and then China provided Iran about $400 billion of economic aid for the everything stand for the coming 4 years, while as a return, Iran provide China the oil, right? All these shuttle fleets. I mean, when we talk about shuttle fleets, are those oil tanks, they turn off their transponder, and then nobody will know where they are. And they have been shipping the oil from Iran to China for years, all these for almost a decade, you know. So now Iran, in this evil axis, Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea, you can see Iran is the western front of this evil axis. Now, if you look at if you push back from Iran's west side border, that's between Iran and Iraq, you go to the east side border of Iran. That's the central five stand countries. Those are the like Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. Those stand countries. They have been long little brothers of Russia and China.
Mhm.
So China is worried that if they lose Iran, the Western
Uh-huh.
world is going to push the forefront, dramatically to the east, to those right next to those five stand countries in the Central Asia. It's a big deal to China.
Huh. So, well, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think there is
Well,
going to be a war?
I think in Iran we have a great opportunities right now because talking about Iran, because right now China is facing dramatic uh, economic pressure because China's economy really rank top. China's economy top somewhere between 2020 and 2023. We don't know when it peaked, but because of the COVID, so nobody knows. And then China's
Uh,
economy start falling like a stone since 2023. So CCP has tremendous economic pressure dealing with their own domestic issues, while Russia has been really, tied to the Ukraine war. So both of them don't have a lot
uh-huh.
to help Iran. So that's why you see when, Trump administration caught Mr. Maduro from Venezuela, China and Russia didn't really do much. So it will be the same thing to Iran.
Uh,
We have this perfect opportunity, timing wise, and both Russia and China wouldn't be able to provide a lot of help to Iran, while at the same time, the Iranian people really rise up against the regime. So, this is a perfect opportunity if we can change the geopolitical landscape in the Middle East. If we don't do it now, I don't know how many years we're
uh-huh.
going to have to wait for this kind of a perfect
Huh.
opportunity.
So have you been advising President Trump on this?
I don't have that direct line.
Well, it's so interesting. I wasn't going to go there. I didn't. I'm so glad that we talked about that. Um, one place I want to go and to start off is so that people understand where you're coming from because when did you well I mean you came from I how what was your story of coming from China to America?
Well, I came to United States in January, the end of January of 1989, which is about like 5 months prior to, or 4 months, prior to the Tiananmen Square massacre. I didn't come to the United States for freedom or democracy or all these things. I was chasing a girl who I was in love. And then not long after I came to United States, it really opened my eyes because the high level power struggle around the time around Tiananmen Square massacre in China. So China actually had to a certain extent, some of the media liberty, liberty for the foreign media. So I saw the whole massacre, the entire process, uh, in 1989. So that totally changed my view on China and the Chinese Communist Party. And then also, so that was pretty much my story. And then I
Well,
started doing the media work,
let's
media
why don't
work.
why don't we stop that there because I have some questions and we're coming up
Okay.
to a break. So we'll start from that point when we come back. Folks, we're talking about while we were sleeping, Chinese communists are taking over America. My guest is Nan Su, and we will hear his interesting story. I want to know if you got the girl, but don't tell us yet. You have to stay tuned. All right, we'll be right back. And welcome back to Dr. Carol's Couch. I'm your psychiatrist host, Dr. Carole Lieberman. We're talking today about while we are sleeping, Chinese communists are taking over America. And we just took a break, right on a cliffhanger. See, that's how I got you to come back. Um, and my guest, not that you wouldn't have come back anyway, because my guest Nan Su is fascinating. So we left. You came to America, not necessarily or not really for freedom, because that wasn't as much of an issue then, but for a girl. So where did this girl go?
Well, we married and we spent our life together.
Oh, but where did she go in America?
She came here in 1986 as a student,
What part
and
of
then
America?
California.
Oh, uh-huh. And did she know you were going to be chasing after her?
Yes, yes,
And that was all planned.
yes.
Okay. So, so when you left, I mean, so you were around college age too, presumably.
I already graduated and I
Uh,
came to United States. I spent about 2 years in my graduate school.
uh-huh. What did you study in graduate school?
I civil engineering.
Okay. So what were your feelings when you came here about the Chinese Communist Party, and when did you realize, or did you from the beginning, what they were all about?
Well, I didn't really I didn't really know that the true nature of Chinese Communist Party until probably the beginning of this century. But 1989 draw a solid line between me and the Communist Party. I came from a military family background. I was born in a military hospital because my dad was a military personnel,
Huh.
and I grew up. And then after I graduated, I was actually drafted to a military school, college, study civil engineering. So pretty much all, and then I served as a civilian officer for the Chinese military for a few years after I graduate. And pretty much all the years I came to United States when I was 26, pretty much all the years I spent it's in Chinese military. And the Tiananmen Square massacre entirely changed my view on the Chinese military, but not yet changed my idea about the Chinese Communist regime yet. until 1999, CCP started persecution against the Falun Gong, which I practiced for years. It's a Buddhist discipline exercise, doing the meditation, and then the whole idea, the whole exercise based on the principle of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, which really pushed me to open the book to re-study the entire history I ever studied in China about the Chinese Communist Party and China. And so I found basically pretty much all the history I learned in China were lies, full of lies. So
Mm.
I had ordered the book. I studied, the books that's available in America as well as from Taiwan, and comparing the histories I learned when I was in China, all those years I was in China. So I realized there was a lot of things I learned, all lies, pretty much, and most of them are lies, pretty much. So that's how I started joining the media work back in 2001. I have serving as the commentators for Radio Free China in the Sound of Hope radio station. That's SOH. And then basically we trying to lease the air times around China's border, outside of China,
Huh.
and then we provide shortwave broadcast directly to Chinese people, try to bring the truth to the society in China. So that's how my entire story is.
It's very, very interesting. Um, so when you left China, was it difficult to leave or that was
No,
easy?
not at all. At that time, China just opened its door. That's in the early 80s. China started opening its door in early 80s because the U.S. China formalized the diplomatic relation in the beginning of 1979 during Carter administration. So at that time, China, they don't really care if you want to leave. If you want, you get a, you're admitted by the U.S. Universities or any Western Europe universities, you're encouraged to leave, actually. Later, I learned that the CCP's strategy was they basically counting on, so they say, well, if there only 20% of these university graduates, all college graduates, all the graduate students, if they go to the Western world, they study. If 20 or 30% of them will come back, that's going to be still a lot
Yeah.
of help to China's economy. So I think that's the bigger scope of this strategy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. What is the current how are things in China these days for the average person?
Well, as average American, oh, you mean the people in China?
Yeah, yes.
Well, China's economy has a big fall ever since 2023, after the CCP ended the COVID, this very strict zero COVID policy. They saw the economy been dropping like a stone ever since then. And overall, the country, you can see, because it used to be China's main economic engine, it's their real estate industry. And then around the country, you see, minimum 30, a lot of places, more than 50% of drop in the housing values because they are totally overbuilt. That, we heard all these stories about the ghost towns, ghost cities being built in China
Huh.
just for the sake of their GDP growth. They totally overbuild. And then there's one report, I believe, from Wall Street Journal. They basically based on that report, you can relocate the entire population of India to China. They still have more to house.
Oh, wow.
So basically, they have a lot of economic troubles. But to Americans, one thing I want to say is, the more economic troubles in China, meaning more dangerous for us to have a war in the Western Pacific. Because when we will in the next few years, we already see it already starting. All kind of social unrest is starting taking place in China. And when the CCP think this is out of control, threaten their ruling power, then they may
Uh-huh.
choose to start war to shift all this tension to outside.
Huh. And so people are not happy because of the economic situation primarily?
Yes, while also the relation between the China and mainly the United States, and also Europe to a certain extent really start going down in the last 5 years, I would say. So 5, 10 years, ever since the first term of Trump administration, Trump started a trade war with China in the January of 2018. I believe that 25% tariffs on the all the solar panels from China. I think that how the trade was started.
Huh.
So trying to change the wrong direction of the U.S. government's China policy for the almost half century. So I think it was a very good move, excellent move to defend the peace. If it wasn't started from then, it will be too late to start all these things right now.
To defend the peace, what do you mean? What was a good?
Well, we are living in well, think about this. Most of the Americans do not understand is China has been in war with us for 30 years. Chinese military strategists in the mid 80s started so-called unrestricted warfare. Basically, it's they're using all different kind of warfare against America in except the military warfare. It could be economic warfare, financial warfare, cultural warfare, educational warfare. Think about Confucius Institute, and drug warfare. Think about fentanyl. So on and so forth. They are the United States has been always the number one target
Hmm.
of China.
Hmm.
Now, the worst thing, we did was in the past 20 years, more than 20 years since the beginning of this century. I remember 2000, I went to Congress. I tried to talk to congressional offices. I was visiting one congressional leader's office from one to another, and then I remember I was there trying to talk to them about the human rights violation in China. While every office I visited, first thing they asked me is, "Do you think it's a good idea to give China PNTR, permanent normal trade status?" Right? The another name is the most favored nation status, and nobody have much interest to listen
Huh.
to me about China's human rights violation.
Huh.
Now that was that because giving China the PNTR was the prerequisite for the U.S. government to allow China join WTO. And China joined WTO in 2001. From 2001 to 2011, China's economy grew 5 times. And then from 2011 to 2021, double. So basically, from 2021, we allowed China join WTO. China's economy, the first 20 years until 2021, China's economy grew tenfold. And now a lot of people do not know what it means. Now think about this. We basically industrialized China, the
Hmm.
biggest communist nation in the world, while at the same time we deindustrialized United States. A lot of you see, we Americans, we took it for granted because we were born in an industrialized nation. We were raised in the industrialized nation. We live our entire life in the industrialized nation. But however, we forgot it. We took it for granted. We forgot how difficult to make a nation become industrialized. Now, prior to, based on International Money Fund, prior to World War II, the whole country, the whole world only have 25 countries fully became fully industrialized. That's
Uh-huh.
basically United States, Canada, and Western European countries, plus maybe Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Russia, and Czech Republic. 25 nations. Now, since the end of World War II in 1945 until the end of last century, that's like a 50 total 55 years.
Uh-huh.
55 years, only four countries became industrialized. That's South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, and Israel. It's very 55 years, only four countries became industrialized on top of that 25 nations
Uh-huh.
industrialized prior to World War II. Now, it's very hard, basically, for a country to become industrialized. And we deindustrialized ourselves and make China become industrialized.
And that was because
That was
um
because we had a wishful thinking, if we, help China to become richer, and we have the wishful thinking, right? Because Americans panda love, I call it panda love. We love pandas so much, and then we believe if we help China become richer, industrialized, and then one day China will have a political reform and become a democratic nation. That's the wishful thinking ever since 2000. I saw in my, from my own eyes ever since 2000, you know. Uh, and now give you some idea what it
well,
means.
let me just ask you. So was it also, I mean, yes, I agree with what you just said, but was it also because America decided because it would be cheaper, like different companies in America realized that they could have I mean, like Apple, for example, right? Apple is made in China. The
Well, the companies and Wall Street that went to China followed the change of U.S. Economic and trade policy, right? Basically, the U.S. government's China policy. If you go back to look at the President Clinton's the U.S. government's economic and trade relation with China, a speech in Johns Hopkins University on March 8th, 2000. Basically, he said we're going to decouple the human rights in China and the economy in China.
uh-huh.
We'll help China to become richer, develop its economy, and then the whole point is, when China's middle class grow in its population, it will push Chinese government to have a political reform. So that's the whole idea.
It's a good idea.
It was a good
It
idea,
was
but
maybe a little naive though.
yeah, it's
For
true.
sure.
That's why I say the pendulum, right?
Well, yeah, but
It's the
but but
pendulum.
but what I'm wondering is like, isn't part of it also that American industries, all different kinds of industries realized that they could make American industries realize that America or their company could make more money if they farmed out the production to China, it would cost less and then they could make more money. Wasn't that the main?
Yeah, yeah. Once after U.S. government change its policy to China, then you can see, all the U.S. Companies, all the big companies and Wall Street start going to China, and then we basically industrialize the China. I'll give you some numbers. 2023, China, make China the total vehicles made in China was three times of the total auto vehicles made in United States. 2024, China made two-thirds of entire world's new electrical vehicles. And 2023 and 2024, both years, China made more than 50% of the new ships. China is the biggest shipbuilding power in the world. And thanks to Trump administration's new last year, Trump administration imposed a port uh, policy, which any ships that's coming to the United States, they are going to collect very, I mean, super expensive port fees for the ships that's made in China.
Ah,
So last year, I think China's shipbuilding order that they received from the world dropped tremendously. So, but however, all these things we forgot. We don't know how to do it anymore. This is the case. All these manufacturers, it's very important. It passes one generation down to another generation. If you have a couple generations, you don't do it, you don't know how to do it anymore. So now we have to, we have to ask our South Korean friends coming back to help us to build a new build to develop a new shipbuilding yards. Ask Japanese coming back to help us to build a new nuclear
ah,
power plants, and ask people from Taiwan to teach us how to do semiconductors.
interesting. Um, America has also been naive, I mean, prior to Trump. Um, but about getting back to terrorism, naive in terms of thinking how we can trust terrorists, how we can make deals with terrorist countries and terrorists, which is also naive. But I'm not saying Trump is naive. Thank goodness he's the president to put things back. But I want to make sure I know we have another just a minute till the next break. We got off into these tangents because they're so interesting, all the things that you've been talking about. When we come back, let's talk about what I called the program. The things that are happening in America that China is pulling the strings for, but that are happening in America, such as buying land and things like that. Can we talk about that too?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Stay tuned. This just gets interestinger and interestinger. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Dr. Carol's Couch, where we're talking today about while we were sleeping, Chinese communists are taking over America. Actually, with my guest Nan Su, um, who who was born and raised in China, came to the United States, thank goodness, because he has been a force for trying to inform people what the Chinese Communist Party is really about. So, so let's talk about some of the things that they have been doing. It's not just, all of what we've just been talking about has been fascinating, from their training terrorists to how we help them become more of an economic power, I mean, an industrial power, while we for this, because for American consumerism, really, right? Um, and so let's talk about some of the things that's going on here in America, like the land grab that China is making. Tell us about that and where they're trying to find land. I mean, I know that some of it is by certain facilities where they're trying to get secrets, whether it's military secrets or scientific secrets. Could you tell us about that?
Well, China has been, well, so we have been seeing a lot of Chinese private investors or companies, that's superficially look at them, they are coming to the United States to buy large mass of land. But however, if you look at all so far, all the lands being purchased, with a large land mass, not that, not that a residential house, if leave for a family to live, not that, but the, large piece of land they're being purchasing all over the country here in the United States. uh, it's realized, it's not hard to realize that they have been strategically choose, the places, the locations of those land they purchased near, uh, near the strategic important, uh, the place that's strategically important to the U.S. military, like a U.S. military base. So we don't know. We have no way to know. They purchase the land. They just leave it there. But we don't know what they're going to do, and what they'll be able to do. That's very important. And more importantly, not just the land. Because we pretty much allow China to come here to do anything they want. We are free, open society, right? And because we have been wishful thinking, China will change and become a part of the democratic world. Uh, and so they have been purchasing uh, American food food processing companies that's making food, the processing food
Huh.
for American families and societies. Now, if there is a war that's going to break that's going to break out in the Western Pacific, do we know who is putting the food on our table?
Hmm.
This is more important, Secretary of War Heck says last May he went to the Shangri-La Asian Pacific Security Summit. That's what he said. The war it's imminent in the Western Pacific. A war can break out in any time in the next 5 years from this year to 2030. And after 2030, I would say the possibility that we are going to have a war with China start going down. Why? There's two reasons. One is that China's economy is going down, and also because of the one-child policy of the Chinese Communist Party adopted ever since 1980. So the society in China it's really aging really fast. So because of that reason, after 2030, I will see the possibilities of a war in Western Pacific will start declining after 2035. I think, if we move in the right direction, keep moving in the current direction, our United States and our airlines in the Western Pacific will become much stronger than where we are today. So the war is going to the possibilities of having a war in the region is going to much smaller than today. So it's very important to realize that there's a lot of military activities taking place near Japan, near Philippines, near Taiwan, around Taiwan, actually, basically, pretty much on a daily basis right now. The war can take place anytime, any minute.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, so what are the people you're saying that it's big pieces of land? It's not just like for somebody's house. So what are they doing with the land?
We do not know. A lot of land being purchased by the Chinese either companies, private companies, or it's just a private ownership as a person. We don't know what they do. Most of the land is just being placed in there. We don't know what they are going to do. But recently we have seen, the Chinese bio lab being discovered in Las Vegas and in California, Bradley City, where they have all these bacteria and virus like Ebola, like COVID-19. We don't know what they are doing there. Uh, if we just we put off our guard, and that's what's going to happen, and it's dangerous.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that America hasn't made this against the law yet. Like for now, when you say private industries, also now are these private industries that are not aligned with the CCP, or they are?
Well, in China, there's no way if you that's why Americans are so naive. In China, if you there's no way, you can get out of control of CCP. They have your families, they have your all your relatives, they control pretty much all the resources, and and in China also there's a law actually, basically says if for the national security reason that they will come to ask your help, you have to help.
Hmm.
All this business, there's no way you can
Uh-huh.
basically say no to them. So, and also we don't know if these so-called private business are they really private or they are
Uh-huh.
just the white glove of the CCP, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Now, I thought they had changed the one child thing back to that you could have more than one child. That's not right?
They start changing the one-child policy probably about 10 years ago. And now the problem is, people don't want the new generations, they don't want to have a child.
Yeah.
Right? So now that the Chinese government is taking all different kind of measures to encourage the new people to marry, to get married. But the new people say, hey, there is four things the new people, new generation that say they say four no's: no love, no marriage, no child, and not purchasing a house. That's what they say. They just there's it's called laying flat movement in China's young generation because it's very hard to find a job. Now every year there was like last year, for example, there was about 13 million new college graduates. And this year pretty much the same, and the next coming couple of years are the same. But only 20% of them can find a job. If and then including when I say 20% of the college graduate able to find a job, I mean the job like there was some I just read a recent report that there were a couple guys who got a PhD here in the United States went back to China. They got they found a job like a staff member in a small town government. Basically like a secretary, that kind of a job.
Uh-huh.
It's very very difficult to find a job right now in China because the current economic situations in China.
So it was no love, no marriage, no child, and
Not purchasing a house,
not purchasing a house.
not
Wow.
purchasing a apartment, basically in China, because most people live in the apartments, so don't no purchasing of apartment. So that's what the four knows, the younger generation. So that the Chinese government now, what they do is they have a policy that's even harder for the married couples. They had a policy that you have to have minimum two children, right? And minimum two children. Now that's even harder than the one child policy to many of the newly married couples because
So
some of them just they can't have it. They're just not able to have it.
so how are they trying to
What are you
enforce
gonna
it?
do? They will
How are
come
they
talk to you.
enforcing? How are they enforcing it? I mean, how are they trying to enforce it?
Well, they will come talk to you, and then and in the you just make it, all different kind of hardship. They will give you a lot of encouragement. Say they're going to provide all different bonuses if you have a new child.
Yeah, like
Uh,
money. They'll
but
give you money, bonus money.
yeah, yeah, they'll give you money, and then they will give you also the free like a daycare, and then they will give you longer vacations after a new child is born,
Uh-huh.
and they'll give all these kind of bonus to encourage now because China their birth rate is like a point eight. It's like a point eight, like a birth rate 2.1, meaning the birth rate counted as like a woman, the total population of a woman against the total population of the children, right? So uh, again, it's backwards. It's a total population of children against the total population of a woman.
Uh-huh.
So 2.1. So meaning every woman average having 2.1 children, that will make the total population stay flat
Yes,
because
yes.
right? Because there was a 2.1, there was a little bit more that's counting on the, the accidents
And then
when
if you
children
if it's
grow up.
point 0.8, it's not going
They
to
got a
even be
point
as
eight.
it's not even going to be as many as there were. Yes. Well, I think they need to have have sex ed or something. They need to have classes to and also classes to help people, in America too, as I'm sure you know, are the younger generation is having trouble um having getting married and having children and all that. I mean, it's not dating, having trouble finding a husband or a wife.
Well, it's a problem. It's the economic situation. It's just that no one gets job. Most of the college grads, you know what kind of job they will find? They will be basically like drive Ubers or go to do the food delivery.
Yes, yes.
They're send the delivering food. It's in China. It's cheap. You order food, they will deliver to your door. And then those delivery personnel, they are the college grads.
Yes, it's really sad. Um, just one, what was the other? Oh, I just wanted to ask you quickly, um, what are these all besides land and besides, the different things, the labs and all of that they're using, that they're putting on them? What about why are there all these Chinese police stations popping up? What are they supposed to be doing?
Well, those are the Chinese police outpost that's being in the United States. They didn't notice any government at all, but China has been sending the police outpost to all 53 countries in the Western world. And they're just there. They're helping one main job they're doing is over there. They're trying to control the Chinese society here in the Western world, in the United States, and also they trying to do the propaganda and then for the Chinese government, and a lot of those United Front departments work. Chinese Communist Party has a United Front work department. Basically, it's to reach out to do PR to find a common interest between Communist Party in China and the groups here in the United States. Or if they are not able to find the common interest, then they will find the common enemy. Like the Islamic terrorist group and Chinese Communist Party. What do they have in common? The only common they have is their enemy, the United States.
Uh-huh.
So they are doing all this kind of work here in the Western society and infiltrated into the Chinese community and the mainstream society too. That's a part of their unrestricted warfare ever since 1990s. And we Americans, have been naive. We have been enjoying the products from China, and we think China will one day become a democratic nation. But while at the same time, they have been doing war against us.
And on that note, we will have to end, and hopefully we have opened some eyes up. I think we have, you have, opened some eyes up of people in America who think that, who are just out there sipping their coffee at Starbucks and thinking that everything is great. Well, thank you so much, Nan Su. This was, every time you come, you bring so much insight and awareness and information, and it was really very interesting. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you all for listening. You've been and watching. You've been tuned into Dr. Carol's Couch. Thank you.